A lot of people obviously will know me, as you said, from the Just Funny Things show, more so now because of Andrew Tate. And essentially, I'm just a woman who has experienced a lot in life and wants to help people just be better versions of themselves. Because I try doing that every single day, and obviously, just entertain people along the way, have good conversations, and just showcase myself.
That's about right. Your profession is rather interesting, and I'd like for you to maybe tell us a little bit about being a business operation consultant, because you obviously do that, occupy this function within the community service empowerment. I mean, I might get the whole thing wrong. I'm always wrong, bad with those titling, but tell us a little bit about that, because I think that that is really important to shed some light upon, especially considering that you guys came out of Europe, Brexit, seeing how
Yeah.
this has affected your society in the UK, etc. I mean, yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
So you quite rightly said, business operations consultant for community empowerment organizations. So essentially what that means is I help businesses or any organization, charities and so on, think, plan, and execute projects that are centered around community empowerment. So that is helping people that are usually misrepresented, that are not privileged in society, the forgotten ones. To show them the way to be able to give themselves a chance to better success, to get jobs, because it's really simple, but sometimes people don't know the knowledge, and somebody needs to tell them. Your parents are immigrants, for example, and all they know is working in a factory. How are you going to know that you could go to university? How are you going to know how you're going to afford it? So I help people put on these projects. I help them find funding for it. I bring creativity. I use my mind to help people, essentially.
So how do you get paid?
Through commission, through
Okay.
consultations, because obviously, the value comes at a price too.
That's the
I'm
thing.
empowering everybody the same way I'm empowering myself. I'm getting paid to help.
But are they all able to afford the pay, or is it something that do you get paid after it's done, or how is it working?
So I do two things in terms of that. So I also am a teacher. So I teach part-time, and I
Yeah.
do this on the side because
Okay, I
I'm
get it.
building up my clientele. So as I do that, you have to have also another thing on the side to keep me stable. But it works out well because I've started planting the seeds and everything is starting to flourish. So I'm starting from the bottom, but everything that's going to come from that is going to give me a lot. So it's just investing in people and understanding that success comes with a lot of patience and comes with a
Absolutely,
lot of sacrifices. So that's what
absolutely,
I'm on right now.
absolutely, 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 absolutely. Look, I have to say, first of all, let me try to figure this comment doesn't want to come out. La milliardaire, comment ça va? Bonsoir. Dinalva, it seems like you speak in French as well, right?
Je parle un peu de français. Oui.
Bravo! Hein? Mas acho que o português já está 100%.
O português continua sempre, nunca sai.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for watching us. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you drop comments. Make sure you get involved in the conversation. And so as you said, so okay, because the thing with a lot of our people, whichever the community, just people in general, there's obviously, as you say, there's access to information, etc. And it feels like it's a freaking labyrinth to figure out how you can make things happen. And so we lost Dinalva. It looks like her connection dropped. She's gonna be back in a second, hopefully. But with that being said, I think that that's one of the. She's back. Okay, here we are. Boom, boom, boom. Yes, sorry, we lost you for a second.
There's a little error.
No worries. So, accessing the resources, how difficult or how easy is it in the UK for minorities and these communities?
Once you figure out the system, is actually very simple. Sometimes things look a little bit more difficult than they actually are. Somebody just needs to tell you, oh, this is all you have to do. That's it. you get certain things in place about yourself. Make sure you have your documentation straight. Make sure that you work, if you're going to school or whatever, make sure that you work towards getting certain things, like getting the right grades to go to university. If not, you can go to college. If you don't go to college, you can do a course. And apprenticeships, there's different routes, so it's just about telling them which one do you want, and then just supporting people to be able to take that step. People need more than just knowledge. They need emotional support and just somebody to say, it's okay, I got you.
100%.
It's education to empower.
And you say you're also an educator, you're a teacher. What do you teach?
French and Spanish.
How many languages do you speak?
So in total, that'll be 4.
Bravo.
Yeah, so I try. I understand how to connect with a lot of different people, because what I am as a person is somebody that has so much of so many different parts of life, from languages to culture to race to just my own status, education, everything takes me to so many different lives that I know how to relate. 100%. So I like to teach as well and help people.
How has your Angolan background empowered you? And how early has it empowered you?
It empowered me very early. I was born, my mom moved from Angola to Portugal to give birth to me, right? And
Are you the oldest of your family?
Middle child.
Okay.
Yeah. And, in Portugal, especially at that time, racism was still quite huge. I think it still is. I'm not quite sure, but I think racism in England is very soft compared to what I've experienced in Portugal growing up. But because my dad was not the stereotypical black man or the stereotypical African or the stereotypical Angolan, he was a powerful man. He was wealthy. He was charming, presented himself well, spoke brilliantly, quite posh, we were always empowered to, as Africans, what we saw and what we represented was wealth. It was success. It's not what you see on TV of poverty. It was never like that. You see, so me being Angola, if anything, was the good side. It's like, being Angolan is great. Being Portuguese really is just more like, I was born here, it's cool, but Angolan was the wealth.
Was the vibe.
Yeah.
That's the get down.
That's it. You people from Angola is cool. Out of all the African countries, Angola has got the most sauce. Checking.
Look, you have the right to believe that, and I would indeed give it to you that Angola definitely has the sauce. But there's so many beautiful sauces around the continent that it will be not giving too much justice.
Plug yourself in, brother.
But we must, as a Central African brother, I must stand. But what's interesting, as you travel around the continent, you realize, sorry, I'm going to get a little closer to the microphone. Let me make sure that I arrange this camera as well. Look at this. As you travel around the continent, you realize that there's so many connections between our, culinary cultures, for example. Just talk about food. We just call these types of food different names, and the preparations may differ from one region to another, but technically it's the same thing.
Yes.
And I really love the fact that we have claimed similar stuff, our own, and sort of like reinvented them. Obviously, before colonialism came to the continent and took over, and started separating these tribes, these regions, these territories that already had the natural, frontiers. It was all communication. There was so many travels going on. I mean.
Yes, it was interconnected.
It messed up a lot. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
It messed up a lot. It created a lot of conflicts between people that realistically, once upon a time, were cousins. You know what I mean? It's not fair. And if we don't understand that as what is now being labeled, which I think is quite unfair, as the black race, within us, there's so many different cultures, but we're not against each other. We are for each other because we've got no choice now. Nobody cares if you're Angolan or if you're Jamaican. In their eyes, you're just black, which means now Just relax, understand your common struggle, understand what history did to your people, and find out where your roots are. I know where mine are.
But I have a question to ask you. With in their eyes, what is it really important? What is
Yeah.
what their eyes see? I mean, obviously, it's probably easy for us to say that since we are, if we apply colorism, which unfortunately is one of the plague that really is, I consider it a plague within our, um, community, the Black community, which has a large spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
We should not really feel we should not be granted the right to speak on that behalf, since we are white passing, or at least I am more white passing than you are, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I've realized that through the years, as we started entering this new era, and all this need to label and to put everything in a box, and oh gosh, it's very divisive, very divisive. And I think the division happens really between us first and foremost. Unfortunately, not all of us, but there's a lot of that colorism conversation that really is a bit of an annoying topic, even though I do understand where it's rooted, where it's rooted. But yeah, so is it so much their eyes, or just the way we perceive ourselves, which allow them to then look at us a certain way?
I think it's both. I think that, for example, for me, I spoke about my dad, and I spoke about why I understand that he was a Black man that was in a place that absolutely would have rejected him, or otherwise. He was big and scary looking on top of that. Listen, he was big and scary. And all the people in that town, in that little town in Portugal, loved him. They had the utmost respect and admiration for this man. And I understood what made him different, and what made him, despite being scary, be somebody that was accepted and was loved, because there was a certain acceptance of who he is as a Black man. He knows his roots. He knows that he is not what people stereotypically will think of him, and he has worked enough to be successful to show I'm Black and I'm successful. So I've empowered myself, so I don't even need to show you anything, but I just empowered myself. That's it. It's not about proving points. It's about just be great regardless of what you look like. So as a mixed race person, sometimes people think that I'm talking out of line, but I'm not, because I've seen that from my dad, and then I experienced the same sort of kind of stereotype. From people think that, oh yeah, white people like you more. You may think that white people may like me more, but on the Black side, I'm rejected a lot more as well. The same way I am rejected on the white side. I get called all the same racist slurs as Black people. I've got an afro that is huge. I can't hide my race. People always know that I'm not even white. Yeah, of course, there's privilege and there's...
And you know that the concept of race was created by, colonialism itself. I mean, because there's only one race, is the human race. The rest is just like, different particularities about the race. But it's so interesting, man. It's so interesting how, when you start learning about these things, it's so interesting. So it really triggers me to ask you, talking about mix, being a mixed race child, and so your father, God rest his soul, was Black.
Yeah.
Your mother's white.
Yes.
Or light skin, Angolan as well.
Yes.
You happen to also live in Britain, in the UK, London, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
How would you, based upon your experience, since you've lived quite a big part of your life in the UK now, right? How many years have you been in the UK?
17.
So the UK, right? So
yes.
What is your experience when it comes to that? For example, the being a mixed race of woman, from your experience, and a Black woman representing the continent, but also having this diversity of culture and this diversification as well. Drop some lines about that. I'm interested.
Listen, growing up, you get lost. It's almost like you have multiple versions of yourself, or spread all over the place, spread with your friends at school that are white and British, your family and friends that are like more on the Portuguese side. Then you've got the Angolan side that is white. Then you've got the black side that is either in Portugal, the black side that is in Angola. Then you've got listen, it's a crazy melting point. And then melting pot, sorry. And then you go through life and you go to university and you meet more people and you still don't fit in anywhere. And you start thinking, but people treat me like I'm black, but I'm not black, and people don't treat me like I'm black. So what am I? And am I Portuguese? Because I mean, I was born in Portugal, but my mom and my dad are Angolan, and we grew up eating funge.
Lad, this is so much confusion. It's like,
so I'm not Portuguese because my friends will go to my house in Portugal and they'll be like, "You're foreign, Dinalva. You're not Portuguese. You're Angolan." Do you see what I mean? So
and how old were you at the time?
So I left Portugal when I was like 12. So imagine when you're 12 and you're a kid, these things are just the more honest is when you start to create your identity.
Yes.
And in Portugal, I always knew that I was foreign. So I've been foreign everywhere I've been. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
So I've never fit in. And that's why I know that I always have to overcome certain things, because when you don't fit in, you need to accept yourself then. Otherwise, you're just forever going to be struggling. So I accepted myself. And you know what I label myself as? Very simple. Like I told you, I'm mixed race. I am full African, which means I'm full Angolan. And I am black in representation because the world sees me as black. And I also see myself as black because I'm African. My dad is black. I can see my black features quite well. I'm black. Easy. See what I mean? That is complicated, but it's simple.
But it's beautiful. It's beautifully put, and I really appreciate the way you articulated that, because I've always had the biggest issues explaining who I am, you know. And it's really interesting because I really like that perspective of yours. Let alone expressing, as far as I'm concerned, explaining whose I'm from, who I am, etc. And then on top of that, the kind of music I'm making. I remember one of the first time I went to Miami to attend the Winter Music Conference back in, I think it was 2009 or no, it was 2011, I think 2010. I'm in the line. I have to DJ at this hotel. And then there's this group of ladies that are, oh man, I'm so excited. I heard about this guy Boddhi Satva, man. I gotta check him out. I heard he's crazy dope. Da 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 da. And so one of my friend, my boy J Money, big shout out, Papa Keisha, come on. And I believe Keisha was there at the time. I'm not sure. And they tell the ladies, well, this is Boddhi Satva. Yo. They didn't believe none of it. It's impossible.
Really?
You know,
he doesn't look like that type of person that should be able to make that music, to have that soul.
That's right. And Keisha confirms he was there. Yeah. So they were just like, nope. And yeah, it took a little while before they processed it, because it was impossible for me to make the kind of music I made. You know, the drums, the patterns, the syncopations. I mean, they were like, nah. Well, you know, and I didn't take it any, badly or anything like that. I was like, well, I understand. I don't get offended by that, because I remember when I first arrived in Belgium and I saw kids that looked like me. Not that I didn't see mixed race child back in Central African Republic in Bangui, the capital city, because there was, but I just had never seen people who actually looked like me, but had the same, like me and you. For example, like I would see you, and you is more obvious, but I would see a guy that literally looked like me. I don't look African. Maybe in my behavior, in the way I move, the way I talk, and you like, either this guy is a white boy that tries to be African, but there's something that's very confusing, right?
Yes, they don't know. So, like, what are you? Why are you like this?
You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, when I met, there was a cousin of a cousin. So which is interesting. On my mother's side, who's white, Belgian American, a part of the family is also mixed Congolese. One of her uncle had a Congolese wife, and obviously all the children are mixed. And so one of their cousins, blonde hair, like straight up look alike. And until he started opening his mouth and started busting Dombulo moves, I really had this look like, who's this white boy think he is? I literally had this look like, and then I really caught myself and I said, "Yo, shame on you for even thinking that way, because you're literally talking about
Exactly.
yourself." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I learned a
But you
lesson.
understand in those moments, like what other people see you as well.
Exactly. That's why I
Even
don't
you,
get
it's like it's
offended.
unusual because there's not many of us yet. But the world is about to
Exactly.
get very mixed, so they need to start understanding now.
But I do understand the necessity to preserve a certain. I understand the ideology of it. I understand the political aspect of it. I just think that there needs to be a comprehensive approach to making sure that it's inclusive, rather than
Mm-hmm.
something that excludes. Obviously, not everybody is going to be for the cause. Not everybody is going to really be true defendants of the continent and the best interests of the continent and our people
Mm-hmm.
as a whole. But